Karen had always been known as the quirky neighbor on Elm Street, but recently, her eccentricities had crossed into troublesome territory. She developed a notorious habit of stealing packages from the porches of unsuspecting homeowners, claiming that all deliveries should be checked by the HOA first. With her self-righteous justification, she felt entitled to swipe anything that didn't belong to her, believing that her actions were not just permissible but necessary to maintain order in the neighborhood. The situation began innocently enough. At first, it seemed harmless. A few misdelivered items found their way into her hands, and she assured the neighbors that she would return them after checking with the HOA. But as days turned into weeks, Karen's pilfering escalated. She would nonchalantly stroll past homes with packages left unattended, her eyes gleaming with mischief as she plotted which item would mysteriously disappear next. The homeowners grew increasingly frustrated as they witnessed their deliveries vanish without a trace. From small boxes containing gadgets to larger packages of clothing and gifts, nothing was safe from Karen's grasp. Neighbors began to share their experiences over coffee and on social media, creating a sense of community solidarity against the thieving neighbor. They issued multiple warnings, leaving polite notes on her door and even approaching her directly, but Karen brushed them off with a wave of her hand and a dismissive laugh. "You all just need to be more vigilant," she would say, dismissing their concerns as trivial. As time went on, frustration morphed into desperation. The homeowners felt powerless against Karen's brazen thefts. They started discussing possible solutions. Should they involve the police or escalate the matter to the HOA? Yet every plan seemed doomed to fail against Karen's cunning nature and audacious excuses. It was during one of these discussions that inspiration struck a particularly clever homeowner. Instead of confronting Karen directly or escalating tensions further, they decided to hatch a genius revenge plan that would put an end to Karen's antics once and for all. They envisioned an elaborate ruse, a fake Amazon box filled with something unexpected, a very irritated skunk. With careful preparation, they set up the package right on their porch, ensuring it looked just like any other delivery. As expected, Karen couldn't resist the opportunity to steal yet another package. Under the cover of night, she snuck over, grabbed the enticing box, and hurried back home with glee, completely unaware of the surprise waiting inside. Little did she know that this was not just another ordinary theft. It was about to lead to an unforgettable moment of reckoning. The homeowner watched from a distance, anticipating the chaos that would soon unfold as Karen opened the box in her living room. This would be more than just a prank. It was a carefully orchestrated plan to expose Karen's entitlement and thievery in a way that no one could ignore. As they waited for the moment of truth, a sense of satisfaction washed over them. The end of Karen's reign of terror was drawing near. As Karen's thievery continued unabated, the homeowners on Elm Street found themselves growing more and more frustrated. Each day brought new tales of missing deliveries, and it wasn't long before they realized that their packages were not just disappearing into thin air. They were falling victim to Karen's audacious habit. The neighborhood, once filled with friendly waves and community spirit, now buzzed with the anger and disbelief of residents who felt powerless against her selfishness. The frustration began to manifest during casual gatherings, where neighbors would share their experiences over coffee or at weekend barbecues. "Did you hear about the new blender that went missing from the Smith's porch?" One neighbor would lament, shaking their head in disbelief. Another would chime in, recounting how she had pilfered a package containing birthday gifts intended for their child. With each story shared, a collective sense of injustice swelled among the homeowners, igniting a fire of camaraderie against a common foe. Despite their efforts to confront Karen directly, she remained unfazed. When approached about her actions, she would laugh dismissively and wave away the complaints as if they were mere trivialities. "You all just need to be more careful," she would quip, her tone dripping with condescension. The lack of accountability only fueled the anger simmering beneath the surface of the neighborhood. How could someone be so brazen? How could she continue to justify her behavior while everyone else suffered? The situation escalated to a point where some homeowners began to question whether they should involve law enforcement or escalate the matter to the HOA. However, many fear that such actions might only provoke Karen further or escalate tensions within the community. They felt trapped in a cycle of helplessness, where Karen's entitlement overshadowed their rights as homeowners. Feeling defeated but not willing to accept this new status quo, one particularly clever homeowner decided it was time for action, action that would go beyond mere confrontation. They started brainstorming ideas that would not only address Karen's behavior, but also bring a sense of justice to their tight-knit community. With creativity as their ally, this homeowner envisioned a plan that would expose Karen's thievery in a way that was both humorous and satisfying. As they mulled over ideas, they recognized that directly confronting Karen had proven ineffective. Instead, they needed a strategy that would take her by surprise, a plan so ingenious that it would not only stop her, but also provide a memorable lesson in accountability. The notion of setting up a fake Amazon box filled with an unexpected surprise took shape in their mind, and excitement began to replace the frustration that had lingered for too long. The anticipation grew as they prepared for their elaborate ruse. Finally, they felt a flicker of hope, a glimmer that perhaps they could reclaim their sense of security and community spirit. As word spread among the other homeowners about this new plan, their spirits lifted. Together, they would stand against injustice and restore order to Elm Street once again. With renewed determination, the stage was set for an unforgettable confrontation that would put an end to Karen's reign of theft once and for all. After weeks of frustration and community discussions about Karen's incessant package thefts, the clever homeowner knew it was time to put their plan into action. This wasn't just about retrieving stolen goods. It was about teaching Karen a lesson she wouldn't soon forget. With a mixture of creativity and a touch of mischief, they devised a genius revenge plan that would serve both justice and entertainment. The first step was to create an irresistible bait, a fake Amazon box that would look completely authentic. They scoured the internet for images and dimensions, ensuring that everything appeared legitimate. After procuring a box that matched the style of typical Amazon deliveries, they carefully crafted labels that screamed urgent delivery and do not open until instructed. The more enticing they made it look, the better the chances were that Karen wouldn't be able to resist. But what would go inside this box? The homeowner pondered various ideas, old clothes, random items from the garage, but nothing seemed memorable enough for their grand scheme. Then inspiration struck. They remembered hearing stories about how skunks could create chaos with just one swift move. A skunk. It would be the perfect surprise, a creature known for its notorious scent and ability to cause panic. The thought of Karen's face when confronted with such an unexpected guest made them chuckle. Next came the challenge of acquiring a skunk. After some careful research, they found a local wildlife rescue that specialized in managing skunks and other small animals. They reached out, explaining their unique situation in hopes of borrowing one for a short time. The rescue staff were amused by the request but understood the need for some harmless mischief aimed at deterring theft. With permission granted, they arranged to borrow an irritated skunk for the prank. On the day of execution, everything came together seamlessly. The homeowners set up the fake Amazon box on their porch early in the morning before most neighbors had even awoken. They placed the agitated skunk inside carefully, ensuring it was safe while making sure it would be ready to make its grand debut once the box was opened. With bated breath, they stepped back and waited, hidden behind a curtain to witness what would unfold. As expected, it wasn't long before Karen's keen eyes spotted the enticing package on the porch, a perfect target for her next heist. Like a moth drawn to a flame, she crept over with her usual stealthiness, checking her surroundings before snatching up the box with glee. The homeowner could hardly contain their excitement as they watched her hurriedly retreat back to her home, completely unaware of the chaos that awaited her inside. This carefully orchestrated plan not only promised to expose Karen's thievery, but also added an element of humor to what had been an extremely frustrating situation for the community. With each tick of the clock, anticipation built as they envisioned Karen eagerly opening that box in her living room. Little did she know that this time she had bitten off more than she could chew. A lesson in accountability was about to unfold in spectacular fashion. As the sun rose on Elm Street, lighting up the quiet neighborhood. Excitement bubbled beneath the surface. The carefully crafted plan was set in motion, and it wouldn't be long before Karen would be tempted by the bait laid out for her. The fake Amazon box sat innocently on the porch, adorned with bright labels that screamed for attention. It was a sight engineered to lure her in, and it worked like a charm. Karen awoke that day, feeling unusually restless. She had spent the last few weeks growing bolder, her thieving habit becoming more reckless as she justified her actions under the pretense of checking deliveries. As she sipped her morning coffee, word of the latest missing package spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. It seemed everyone had lost something to Karen's thievery, and today felt different. She sensed a new target might be waiting for her. While strolling around the block later that morning, Karen's eyes caught sight of the enticing package sitting on the porch of her unsuspecting neighbor. Her heart raced at the thought of another successful heist. It's just one more package, she reasoned, dismissing any guilt that might have crept in. The thought of checking it for HOA compliance filled her with a false sense of righteousness. After all, she believed herself to be protecting the community. With a quick glance around to ensure no one was watching, she crept toward the porch, her footsteps light but deliberate. The thrill of snagging yet another delivery sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. Karen's mind raced with thoughts of what could be inside, perhaps a new gadget or some trendy clothes. It didn't matter. What mattered was that it wasn't hers, and in her twisted logic, that made it fair game. The moment she reached down to grab the box, she felt a rush of euphoria. This was too easy. It felt like victory snatched right out from under everyone else's noses. With a satisfied smirk on her face, she hoisted the package under her arm and quickly made her way back home, unaware of the chaos waiting just beneath its surface. Once inside her house, Karen couldn't contain her excitement. She set the package down in her living room and admired it for a moment before tearing off the labels. She was giddy with anticipation as she prepared to uncover whatever treasure lay within. Little did she know that this time would be different from all those before. As she pried open the box and lifted its flaps, an unexpected movement caught her eye. A flash of black and white darted out from within. In an instant, before she could even comprehend what was happening, an irritated skunk sprang from its cardboard confines and zoomed across her living room. The skunk's frantic escape triggered chaos in Karen's home. She barely had time to react as panic set in. Instinctively, she stumbled backward, realizing too late what she'd unleashed. As the skunk made its grand exit into her home, it left behind an unmistakable trail of chaos, and its signature odor began to permeate every corner of the space. Karen's initial surprise quickly morphed into horror as she grasped what had just occurred. The realization hit hard. Her thievery had not only cost her dignity, but it also plunged her into a situation far beyond anything she had ever experienced before. Within moments, her living room transformed into a stinky battleground as she screamed and gagged, racing toward the door in desperate need of fresh air. As Karen tore open the fake Amazon box, her excitement reached a fever pitch. The thrill of snagging yet another package filled her with a sense of triumph, momentarily overshadowing any lingering guilt. But that moment was fleeting, as the unexpected happened in an instant. With a sudden burst of movement, the irritated skunk shot out of the box like a cannonball, its black and white fur a blur against the bright living room walls. The skunk landed on the floor and froze for just a heartbeat, its tiny body tense with surprise. Karen's eyes widened in horror as she processed what was happening. No, 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 she shouted, backpedaling away from the creature that had just turned her illicit victory into utter chaos. She had thought it was all a harmless prank, but reality hit hard as panic set in. The skunk, startled and disoriented, quickly regained its composure. It darted around the room, sniffing at furniture and darting under the coffee table. Karen's heart raced as she scrambled backward, trying to put distance between herself and the source of impending doom. The last thing she wanted was for this little intruder to feel threatened, and yet here they were, trapped in an escalating standoff. Without warning, the skunk turned its body toward her. In that split second, Karen's mind raced through every horror story she had ever heard about skunks and their infamous defense mechanism. "Oh no. Please don't," she yelled, but it was too late. The skunk unleashed its potent spray, and within seconds, the room was engulfed in a noxious cloud that burned her nostrils and made her gag. Karen's instincts kicked in. She immediately bolted for the door, her feet barely touching the ground as she raced past furniture and over scattered items in her living room. The overwhelming stench clung to her clothes and hair like an uninvited guest refusing to leave. As she burst outside into the fresh air, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. But it was short-lived as she realized just how ridiculous the situation had become. Outside on her porch, gasping for breath while trying to escape the lingering odor that now permeated her home, Karen let out a series of frantic screams. "Help! Someone help me!" She cried out, realizing how utterly absurd she must appear to anyone witnessing this spectacle. Neighbors who had been casually going about their day stopped in their tracks at the sound of her panicked voice echoing down the street. They exchanged glances filled with both concern and suppressed amusement. Word of Karen's antics had spread quickly through the neighborhood. As Karen stood there gagging and demanding assistance while trying to wipe away tears from her eyes, it dawned on her how deeply ironic this entire experience was. Just moments before, she had been reveling in what she thought was another successful theft. Now she found herself on display as the butt of a joke, a living example of poetic justice. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to her amidst all this chaos, security cameras captured every moment inside her home, her theft, the skunk's grand exit, and her frantic race into the outside world, preserving evidence that would soon come back to haunt her in ways she never anticipated. The homeowner's plan had worked flawlessly. They would bring Karen's reign of theft to an end while providing an unforgettable story for everyone on Elm Street. As the commotion unfolded on Karen's porch, the scene quickly drew the attention of the entire neighborhood. Residents peered out of their windows, curious about the ruckus and the panicked cries echoing down Elm Street. Many had already heard whispers of Karen's infamous package thefts, but witnessing her frantic escape from her own home added a layer of absurdity that no one could resist. Gathering outside, neighbors exchanged incredulous glances, their faces a mix of concern and barely contained laughter. Some approached cautiously, unsure if they should help or just enjoy the spectacle. The sight of Karen, hair disheveled and clothes reeking of skunk spray, was a stark contrast to her usual self-assured demeanor. It was almost surreal to see her flustered and vulnerable, a far cry from the woman who had so brazenly stolen from them. "Is she all right?" one neighbor asked, trying to mask their amusement with genuine concern. "What happened in there?" Another chimed in with a chuckle. "I think she got what was coming to her." The collective energy shifted from sympathy to camaraderie as they began sharing stories about their own encounters with Karen's thievery. It became a bonding moment for the community, a shared experience that transformed their frustration into laughter and solidarity. However, as the situation escalated, so did the discussions about blame. Karen, still gasping for air outside her home, began shouting accusations at the homeowner who had set up the trap. "You did this on purpose," she yelled, pointing an accusatory finger toward their porch. "This is illegal. You can't just leave animals on someone's property." Her voice dripped with indignation as she attempted to shift attention away from her own actions. The tension in the air shifted slightly as some neighbors exchanged awkward glances. Many understood that while Karen's behavior had been intolerable, they also recognized that perhaps this particular act of revenge was over the line. "It is a bit extreme," one neighbor whispered to another, though deep down they couldn't deny that it was hard not to feel satisfaction at seeing her finally face consequences. But just as quickly as sympathy began to bubble up for Karen, it was countered by reality when everyone remembered the security footage that had captured her thievery in real time. The homeowner calmly stated that they had evidence proving Karen had stolen the package first. With a few clicks on their phone, they pulled up the video footage and shared it with anyone willing to watch. Gasps erupted from the crowd as they watched Karen sneak over to snatch up the box without a second thought. The narrative shifted dramatically. Suddenly, it was clear who bore responsibility for this chaotic turn of events. The security footage validated what everyone had suspected but lacked proof of. Karen was not just an unlucky victim of circumstance, but rather the architect of her own downfall. As murmurs spread through the crowd about how satisfying it felt to finally have clarity on this ongoing issue, many felt invigorated by a newfound sense of justice. The HOA members who had previously been uncertain about how to handle Karen's behavior now found themselves rallying around a common goal, ensuring something like this would never happen again. In the days that followed, while some neighbors supported Karen with cautious empathy as she dealt with her embarrassment and loss of dignity, others took measures into their own hands, discussing ways to protect their packages better and even installing security cameras on their properties. The community felt united against an adversary who had once threatened their sense of safety and trust. As for Karen, she would soon learn that her attempts at manipulation would no longer go unchecked. She had lost not only her reputation, but also any goodwill from those around her. As the chaos outside Karen's home began to settle, the atmosphere shifted from disbelief and confusion to a sense of collective curiosity. The neighbors gathered, eager to figure out what had actually transpired. The homeowner who had orchestrated the entire plan felt a swell of confidence as they prepared to unveil the key piece of evidence, the security footage that would ultimately reveal the truth. With a few taps on their smartphone, the homeowner pulled up the video captured by their security camera. The crowd hushed, eyes glued to the small screen as they awaited the unfolding drama. The footage began with a view of the porch, innocent and quiet, before revealing Karen approaching with her characteristic stealth. Gasps rippled through the gathered crowd as they watched her brazenly approach the package. "This is it," the homeowner said, their voice steady but tinged with anticipation. "Watch closely." The video showed Karen glancing over her shoulder, ensuring no one was watching her pilfering act. She reached down, snatched up the box, and hurried away with it tucked under her arm, all while sporting a sly grin that suggested she believed she had successfully pulled off another heist. The neighbors exchanged incredulous looks as they witnessed this blatant act of theft unfold in real time. It became clear that Karen's claims of being an innocent party were nothing more than self-serving lies. "I can't believe she actually thought she could get away with this," one neighbor muttered under their breath, shaking their head in disbelief. The video continued to roll, capturing every moment leading up to her eventual encounter with the skunk. As Karen opened the box in her living room, laughter erupted among the crowd when they saw the startled skunk leap into action. Those who had been skeptical about the homeowner's plan now found themselves cheering for justice served in a most unexpected way. The atmosphere shifted again. No longer were people feeling sympathy for Karen's plight. Instead, they were reveling in the hilarity of her misfortune while simultaneously recognizing it as a long-overdue consequence of her actions. She got what was coming to her, someone shouted gleefully, prompting laughter from those around them. However, amidst the mirth, an underlying current of concern surfaced regarding how the situation might escalate further. Some neighbors worried that Karen could retaliate or attempt to spin the narrative in her favor. They knew she was not one to back down easily and often thrived on creating drama. But armed with this irrefutable evidence, it seemed unlikely anyone would take her side. The HOA members present realized that they had been given a golden opportunity to address not just Karen's behavior, but also reinforce community standards moving forward. They discussed how they could use this footage to formally address Karen's thefts and ensure accountability within their neighborhood. With renewed vigor and purpose, neighbors began discussing how they could set up additional security measures for their properties, not just for themselves, but as a way to protect each other from potential future thefts. The shared experience had united them against a common adversary and fostered a sense of community resilience. As for Karen, the revelation of her theft would undoubtedly have lasting repercussions. With each neighbor more aware of her antics than ever before and armed with evidence that painted her as nothing more than a petty thief, it became clear that she would have an uphill battle to regain any semblance of trust or respect in Elm Street once this incident spread beyond their immediate circle. The security footage had not only captured a moment, but had become a rallying point for everyone who had suffered at Karen's hands, a turning point in restoring order and integrity within their community. In the aftermath of the chaotic events that had unfolded, the atmosphere in the community shifted from shock to a sense of purpose. Armed with undeniable proof of Karen's thievery, the homeowner decided it was time to take decisive action. No longer would they allow Karen's antics to tarnish the reputation of their neighborhood or disrupt the peace that they had all cherished. The homeowner contacted the local postal service to report Karen's theft, presenting the security footage that clearly captured her pilfering the package from their porch. They detailed her pattern of behavior, how she had repeatedly taken deliveries meant for others while hiding behind her dubious justification of needing to check everything for the HOA. With every passing moment, it became clear that Karen's actions were not just annoying but constituted serious violations of trust and property rights. The Postal Service took the reports seriously. They initiated an investigation into Karen's activities and informed the homeowner that such behavior could lead to charges of mail fraud. The prospect of official consequences sent ripples of excitement and anticipation through the community, as many neighbors had long felt powerless against her relentless thievery. Finally, it seemed like justice was on their side. As word spread about the homeowner's actions, community members rallied together in support. They began discussing how they could document any future incidents more effectively and ensure everyone's packages remained safe. Some neighbors even proposed forming a neighborhood watch group to keep an eye out for suspicious behavior, further solidifying their bond against any further transgressions from Karen or anyone else who might try to exploit them. Meanwhile, Karen was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing on her horizon. While she dealt with the embarrassment of her skunk encounter and tried to clean up her home from the lingering odor, she unknowingly set herself up for a much larger fallout. The community had united in a way she never anticipated. Her reputation was crumbling as swiftly as her excuses. Days later, the Postal Service reached out to inform the homeowner that Karen had indeed been flagged for mail fraud. The news brought both relief and satisfaction. At last, there would be tangible consequences for her actions. They learned that this flagging would not only affect her future interactions with mail services, but could also lead to investigations by local authorities if further complaints were filed. With this renewed sense of justice came an urge to add a little humor back into their lives after all this tension. In a light-hearted yet pointed gesture, the homeowner installed a motion-triggered sprinkler system on their porch, aptly dubbed the Karen Defense System. This new addition served as both a physical barrier against future thefts and a tongue-in-cheek warning to anyone who dared to cross boundaries in pursuit of their selfish interests. The motion-triggered sprinklers became a source of laughter among neighbors as they shared stories about their experiences with Karen and discussed how they could reclaim their sense of safety. The sprinkler system stood as a reminder that while community spirit can be tested by individual actions, unity and creativity could prevail. As for Karen, she would soon discover that her days of carefree theft were over. The combination of being officially reported for mail fraud and facing communal vigilance meant she would need to rethink her approach entirely, if she even had any hope left at all. The tables had turned dramatically, and it seemed that every move she made would now be watched closely by those she once believed she could easily deceive. With the news of Karen being flagged for mail fraud circulating through the community, the atmosphere on Elm Street buzzed with a mix of relief and excitement. But the homeowner wasn't finished just yet. They wanted to ensure that Karen would think twice before ever attempting to steal another package again. Thus, they decided to take matters into their own hands and installed what they affectionately dubbed the Karen Defense System. The system was simple yet effective, a motion-triggered sprinkler system positioned strategically on their porch. It was a humorous yet practical solution designed to deter anyone tempted to pilfer packages in the future. The homeowner envisioned it as both a protective measure and a playfully sarcastic reminder of what happened when boundaries were crossed. On installation day, the homeowner felt a surge of excitement as they set up the sprinklers, carefully aligning them for maximum coverage of the porch area. They couldn't help but chuckle at the thought of Karen's face if she ever attempted another theft. With each sprinkler connected and tested, anticipation grew about how effective this new defense would be. Once everything was in place, it was time to spread the word. The homeowner informed their neighbors about the new addition, and everyone gathered for an impromptu celebration on the porch. Laughter filled the air as they shared stories about Karen's antics, and many expressed their gratitude for this innovative approach to keeping their community safe from her misdeeds. As dusk settled over Elm Street, a sense of unity wrapped around a neighborhood like a warm blanket. Everyone felt empowered knowing they had taken a stand against Karen's thievery together. They knew that this was not just about protecting their packages. It was about fostering an environment of trust and respect among neighbors. Days passed, and while most residents went about their daily routines, Karen remained oblivious to the playful deterrent installed on the porch. She had been keeping a low profile since her embarrassing encounter with the skunk, but curiosity lingered in her mind. Had things changed in her absence? Would she still be able to get away with her usual antics? That question was soon answered when one fateful afternoon, unable to resist temptation any longer, Karen spotted a package left unattended on the homeowner's porch. Her heart raced. Here was her chance for redemption. The thrill of stealing once more coursed through her veins as she approached the porch with stealth and determination. Just as she reached out to grab the package, she inadvertently triggered the motion sensor. Suddenly, water sprayed from the sprinklers with surprising force, drenching her from head to toe. The unexpected deluge caught her completely off guard, leaving her sputtering and shocked as she stumbled backward in disbelief. The laughter that erupted from nearby neighbors echoed down the street as they witnessed this instant karma unfold before their eyes. They watched gleefully as Karen attempted to shield herself from the water while frantically retreating from the porch, her dignity washed away alongside her dry clothes. The Karen defense system proved to be an overwhelming success, delivering justice in a way that was both effective and entertaining. No longer could Karen steal without consequence. Now every attempt would be met with an immediate splash of water, and perhaps even laughter from those who had endured her antics for so long. In that moment, not only did Karen realize she had underestimated her neighbor's resolve, but she also understood that her days of thievery were officially over. The community had come together not just to reclaim their packages, but also to reclaim their sense of safety and camaraderie, which would forever keep Karen at bay. As the dust settled on the events that had transpired on Elm Street, a profound sense of reflection enveloped the community. The saga of Karen's thievery and the clever retaliation that followed had brought neighbors together in ways they never expected. What began as frustration over stolen packages transformed into a collective effort to reclaim their sense of safety and trust. The installation of the Karen defense system became more than just a humorous deterrent. It symbolized the resilience and unity of the neighborhood. Neighbors who once felt isolated by Karen's actions now found themselves standing shoulder to shoulder, supporting one another against a common foe. Laughter echoed through the streets as they shared stories about their experiences with Karen, each tale reinforcing their bond. In reflecting on their journey, it was clear how important community spirit was in overcoming adversity. The homeowners realized that when they banded together, they could reclaim their power and take a stand against any injustice. This newfound camaraderie inspired discussions about establishing stronger neighborhood watch programs and encouraging open communication among residents. As they celebrated their victory, many agreed that the episode served as a valuable lesson in accountability. While Karen's antics provided some comic relief, they also highlighted the importance of respecting personal property and fostering an environment where everyone felt safe and valued. The community recognized that they had a responsibility to uphold these standards for one another. Karen's downfall was not simply about punishment. It was about understanding the consequences of her actions. The embarrassment she faced after being drenched by the sprinklers was only a small part of a larger narrative about respect and integrity. For many neighbors, her story became a cautionary tale, one that served as a reminder that selfishness and entitlement would not be tolerated. As weeks turned into months, Elm Street thrived with a renewed sense of purpose. Neighborhood gatherings blossomed into regular events where residents exchanged ideas on improving safety measures and fostering friendships. They shared potlucks, organized cleanup days, and even held block parties to celebrate their unity. The laughter that once filled the air during moments of mischief now resonated with joy and connection. The security footage that had initially exposed Karen's thefts became a source of pride for the community, an emblem of how far they had come together. It reminded them that standing up for what was right not only protects individuals, but also strengthens the fabric of a community. They learned to appreciate one another more deeply, recognizing that each person's well-being contributed to their collective happiness. In the end, justice was served not just through official channels, but through the power of community solidarity. Elm Street emerged stronger from this experience, armed with lessons learned about trust, accountability, and the importance of looking out for one another. As they moved forward, the residents remained vigilant but also hopeful, ready to create an environment where everyone could thrive without fear or theft. The saga of Karen became an enduring memory for Elm Street, a story woven into the fabric of their community identity. It served as a reminder that even in challenging situations, unity could prevail, ensuring that kindness and respect reigned supreme in their neighborhood for years to come.